Sugar maple producers often wonder what they can look at in their sugar bush as an indication for when they need to thin their woods. Thinning of your woods, thinning of your sugar bush is important because it contributes to the long-term health of the trees. There are several visual clues that you can use to understand if your woods have too much competition for sunlight. One of those clues is the presence of dead branches below the main canopy or below the individual crowns of trees. Trees produce branches so that they can support leaves and to support foliage, but when those branches become chronically shaded, most of the time those branches will die. So the presence of dead branches below the main canopy is an indication that the canopy is closed, it's cutting off sunlight, and that the trees, those branches for the trees are going to die. Another indication is the presence of dead trees. Trees are going to die no matter what, but when you look around in your woods and you see that there's an abundance of dead trees, that means that those trees have lost the battle for sunlight, they've lost in that competitive interaction, and those trees have died. It's kind of I think it's an interesting characteristic that as the average diameter of the tree increases, the number of trees that are present in your sugar bush have to reduce. If you have, let's say that you have an average tree diameter of 12 inches, in order for that average diameter to increase by 1 inch, to go from 12 inches to 13 inches, about 20% of the trees have to die. It's just the trees need physical space in order for the canopies to expand, so 1 in 5 trees will die as you move for each 1 inch increase in average tree diameter. The crown of a tree is where all the action happens. That's where photosynthesis happens, the sugar is made, and the shape of that crown is an indication of how much access that tree has to sunlight. If you visualize the shape of the crown of a tree that's growing in a yard that doesn't have anything around it, you will recognize that that tree has a balanced crown on all sides of the stem. When you go into the woods and into a sugar bush, the trees are going to necessarily, or almost by default, have some amount of competition. So you're never going to find those crowns that are perfectly balanced on all sides and also deep from top to bottom. So two things we can look at when we evaluate the crown of a tree as an indication for competition to sunlight. One is the shape. So when you see a tree such as the tree on the left that has a very flat side, so the right-hand side of the crown on the left is flat as it's next to the tree on the right. So those two trees are competing for sunlight. The tree on the left is a big-tooth aspen. The tree on the right is a red maple. Another characteristic that we can look at is what's called the live crown ratio. So the live crown ratio is the percentage of the total height of a tree that has crown, or that has crown, live branches. Most of the time when you go into a woods that has never been thinned, where the trees are under heavy competition, a hardwood forest, most sugar bushes, you're going to find a live crown ratio of about 20%, anywhere between 15 and 25%. In a sugar bush that has been managed over time, those branches, the lower branches, have access to sunlight, they remain alive. You may have a live crown ratio between 30 and 50%. If you look at the live crown ratio of a tree that's growing in a yard, you may have 80 or 90% live crown ratio. So the width, the size of the diameter of the crown, the shape of the crown, and then the depth of the crown are all indications for how much competition individual trees have relative to another. You can also look at crowns and categorize them as either upper or lower canopy. So the upper crown class trees have full access to sunlight. The lower crown class trees have little or no access to sunlight. The upper crown class trees have significantly greater growth than the lower crown class trees. My research sugar maple trees that are in the upper crown class average about 0.7 gallons of syrup per year. My lower crown class research trees average about 0.44 gallons of syrup per year. When a tree is released from competition, it has more sunlight and it's able to grow faster. The research sugar bush that we're in has research plots that were established in 2005. So for the last 16 years, we've been able to monitor the growth of these trees. The trees that were in areas that were thinned had 3 times the growth rate of the upper crown class trees in the areas that were not thin. So the upper crown class thin trees were averaging about 0.14 inches of diameter growth per year versus the upper crown class trees of the areas not thinned were about 0.05 inches of diameter growth per year.